So in today's video, we're going to take a look at a segment of a debate between two prominent psychologists, one who is an atheist by the name of Susan Blackmore, and the other is Jordan Peterson, who, although he is not a committed Christian, is on the side of theism. We are praying that at some point Jordan Peterson does become a fully committed Christian. In this particular segment of this debate, we are going to hone in on Susan Blackmore's comments about how she views life and why everything to her is meaningless, and then Jordan Peterson's response, as well as a few comments of my own. I do find Susan's comments to be quite telling because they do show the inconsistencies of atheism and why atheists will always have a hard time trying to live out their atheistic views in an absolute manner. Let's listen in.
The world. And I'm much more in recent years in the habit of waking up in the morning, even if it's raining in January in England, and looking out and going, oh, and it's a feeling of gratitude, not gratitude towards God or towards anybody or anything, just free-floating gratitude. That seems to have a positive consequence. I set the day up better, and it's kind of self-perpetuating. It pops up again and again.
Do you think you can just have gratitude in general, or must gratitude always be given towards something and ultimately God?
That's a good question. That goes back to our discussion about acting things out. Like, gratitude is something you feel towards something. And you can say, well, I don't feel it towards anything in particular. And I would say, all right, well, the diffuse nothing that you feel it towards serves in your psychological hierarchy as your equivalent of God.
No, but it's gratitude. You know, this morning, for example, I looked out and it was so green. We've had frosts and it's been white the last few days, and it was green this morning, and it was just gratitude to the universe, if you like. It's not really God because it's not a creator. It's not anything I can pray to. I know.
Why feel gratitude towards it then?
I don't know, but I find
That's fine.
I know that you tackle in this book that happiness is not an ultimate good, and I struggle
it's
this
just
way.
not an ultimate goal.
Oh, okay,
I didn't say it wasn't an ultimate
all
good.
right, okay.
There's a big difference between those
things.
things.
You're right. You picked me up correctly on that. Nevertheless, we are happiness-seeking creatures, and I have found through practice and growing older that acting gratitude, thinking gratitude, feeling gratitude makes me happier and seems to rub off on other people.
So I don't think we are happiness-seeking creatures, and I think it's a low goal. Not because there's something wrong with being happy, because, thank God if you get to be happy now and then. But I don't think that that's what we seek. I think we seek a meaning that's deep enough to sustain us through tragedy. And that is way different.
Do you know, when I hit tragedy is too strong a word, I think, but when horrible things happen to me, or I feel, or I read some terrible thing going on in the world, yes, those are tragedies going on in the world, my response is, nothing matters. It's all empty and meaningless. This is how the world is. Get used to it. Get on with it, girl.
I do want to address real quickly Susan's apparent view of life, which is nihilism. For those who are unaware of what nihilism is a philosophy that rejects values and the valuations society places on people, objects, and life, and instead states that everything is meaningless. There are about 5 forms or types of nihilistic views. You have the epistemological nihilism, which is the belief that knowledge does not exist, and if there is knowledge in the universe, we cannot attain it. There's ethical nihilism, which is the belief that there are no ethics and that there is no reason to hold themselves or anyone else to any ethical standards. There's passive nihilism, which is the belief that nihilism is its own end and there is no need to pursue higher values. There's political nihilism, which is the belief that nobody should hold any political views and should instead try to tear down all political institutions. And then there's existential nihilism, which is the belief that life has no meaning and everyone, everywhere, at every point has no value to the universe. Based on her comments and the books that she's written and the lectures that she's given, it appears that Susan Blackmore is more of an existential nihilist. But here's a problem with this nihilistic view. If there is no meaning to life and if there is no value in anything or anyone, there should be no point in doing literally anything, and there should be no reason to satisfy any desires that will be considered valuable or that will bring out a particular point. Like this debate forum that Susan had with Jordan Peterson. If life is meaningless, why even make the effort to have the discussion if it is pointless? Why seek for positivity or happiness in nature as she stated? Why has she written so many books, done so many lectures, and why did she graduate from a university to become a psychologist if everything is actually meaningless or pointless? If there is so much tragedy in the world, and if bad things did happen to her and she concludes that nothing matters and it's all empty and meaningless, why then is she, as she stated, getting up and getting on with it? Why continue self-preservation of life? If there is no need for reason or living, then there really is no need or reason for existing. To say that life is meaningless, but to continue moving on with your life is a real contradiction and a paradoxical statement, which is what Jordan Peterson addresses in his rebuttal.
That sounds like a very Zen Buddhist way of dealing
I guess
with,
it- I guess it
with
is.
meaning.
Well, it's a paradoxical way, though. Because
is
the
kind of
first,
paradoxical.
The first part of that is nihilistic, and the second part isn't. So how do you reconcile those two things? Why get on with it, girl?
Because, well, here's another thing. I've often done this with my students. Let's suppose you become nihilistic. Nothing matters. There's no point in doing that. I mean, I think we live in a pointless universe. What are you going to do? And I say to them, like William James in his wonderful thing about getting up in the morning, but that's a slightly different point that he makes there. But I say to them, okay, tomorrow morning, when you wake up, think it's all pointless. There's no point in doing anything. Now, what are you going to do? Well, actually, you're going to need to go to the loo. You're going to get out of bed and you're going to go to the bathroom. And when you're there, you'll think, actually, I'm hungry. I think I want to go down to the kitchen. I probably should put my slippers on. Why don't I get dressed? You go and have something to eat. And then you think, I'm bored. And you go to university and go into your lectures. And, we are not creatures who will just not do anything. To me, to go through that process, which I've done in the past a lot, and it's just natural now, is a very positive way of living.
Again, why even talk about finding a way to create a positive way of living if there really is no meaning to it and it is a pointless effort? To speak of creating a positive way of living or even a negative way of living is in fact to add meaning or purpose and value to your own life.
To accept the meaningless and ultimate emptiness of everything and accept that this creature here, this thing, this evolved creature just will get on with life.
But you're not accepting the meaninglessness of it, even by going through those actions that you
don't
described.
think so?
Not
Well,
at all,
how can
because
you say that?
because you're acting as if
Well,
those things are meaningful.
Yes, I am. I'm
Right,
acting
okay,
as
so
though
let-
those things are
You're
okay,
pretending
so
that
let-
they're meaningful?
Pardon?
Are you pretending that they're meaningful?
No, I'm not pretending. I'm. My way of putting it would be that those meanings are constructed by myself and others.
They're personal
and they're
meanings rather than-
because of the kind of creatures we are, because of the meme
But they're not
plexes,
constructed.
I'd like to hear
Hunger
Jordan's
isn't
response to this.
constructed. Neither is your desire to use the loo. None of that's
No,
constructed.
no. But the fact that there is a loo is part
Yes.
of culture.
Yeah, well, thank
And the
God
fact
for that.
Yeah.
But see-
Oh, you
see-
thank God, would you,
see-
for that? Sorry, that's a poor joke.
Well, you see, so imagine this. You have the proximal meanings that you described that are sort of a priori, right?
Yep.
They're handed to you. You might consider them as needs or drives, although they're
Yes.
not. They're personalities. That's not the right way of conceptualizing them. But then there's the intermingling of all those needs and drives, let's say, and that constitutes a new layer of structure, because it isn't just that you have to eat and that you have to use the washroom and that you have to have something to drink and that you have to be warm enough or cool enough to survive. It's that you have to do all those things at the same time in a situation where you're going to have to propagate that across time, and you're going to have to do it with a bunch of other people. Yep. And it's always been like that. And so what that means is that out of those proximal meanings, higher meanings arise. And you might say, well, those meanings are arbitrary, and I would think those are religious
I wouldn't
meanings.
say they are arbitrary, but I would say they were constructed. And it's very interesting. Reading your
What
book.
do you mean by constructed?
Well, they are a consequence of mimetic evolution, of the language that people are brought up in, the culture they live in, the arguments they have. I mean,
What about the biology that they're given?
well, we start with the biology, and the memes build on top of that.
Nah,
Culture
the
builds
memes are
on top.
biology too.
Well, by definition, they are. Well,
See, this is the
I
thing.
I would follow Dawkins in saying, well, talk about genes as biology, talk about memes as culture. That's all I meant by dividing that. But let me say this.
Yeah, but I don't accept that division.
But I want to get back to what we're saying about meaning.
Just wanted to mention that when Susan appealed to mimetic evolution as a response to how certain wants and needs are constructed, she's really referring to a theory within science that suggests that all of the things within our human culture are derived from a single meme, which, like a gene, replicates itself throughout human history. Basically, people tell each other their ideas or they write them down and someone hears them or reads them later. And then that replicates from one human to another. And those ideas begin to form generations of human culture. Susan Blackmore actually wrote a book about mimetic evolution called The Meme Machine. Now, please note, she actually wrote a book about a scientific theory, which according to her nihilistic view, was something that she did that was actually meaningless and pointless.
Reading your book made me think a lot about what you mean by meaning, and your claim that we should have a meaningful life or strive for a meaningful life, that meaningfulness is important. And I kept asking myself, do I live that way? What meanings does my life have? And, if I think of something like, well, that most of my striving goes into writing my books. Mm-hmm. And is that meaningful? And again, I have the same response when I ask myself that question. It's just what this body does. Then
you should listen to the body and stop listening to the thing that's criticizing it.
So after going through all the possible reasons as to why she has strived to accomplish certain things in her life, the final conclusion that she has come up with is to say that it is just what the body does. No purpose, no reason, just an automatic act of the human body. Now, what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is simply a denial of the truth of her own existence. To say that her body, by its own nature, is striving to do those things that it does proves that she was created for a purpose, that there is meaning. The body is actually indicating, it's telling her that I was created for more. What she has done, what she is doing, and what she will continue to do is not just based on a construct of genetic or mimetic evolution, and neither is it just arbitrary actions. All of it will be intentional, all of it will be meaningful, whether they're bad or good, and it is because of the way that she was created and who she was created by. Isaiah chapter 64 and verse 8 says, "But now, O Lord, you are our Father, we are the clay, and you are our potter. We are all the work of your hand." An atheist who is a nihilist cannot truly live an atheistic and nihilistic life because their very own nature will automatically cause them to perform in a way that demonstrates life having value. They will still express love and care and compassion towards others, like their own children or their spouse. They will still hesitate to steal or kill or to commit any other crimes. They will have respect for those that they communicate with, and they will pursue being a good citizen in the world. In fact, many atheists are actually great contributors to the various needs that we have in our world. They're great donors. They have invested a lot in making the world a better place. Now, if there is no meaning to life, and if there's no purpose for any of these things, then they would not do these things. But the reason why they would do these things is because there is a moral law that is embedded in our human conscience that will cause us to evaluate things in life as either good or bad, and will live by those evaluations. And although they will deny that there is a moral lawgiver, the fact that they will live by those evaluations of moral law shows that a moral lawgiver does exist, who we from the Christian world will call God. Well, that's my few thoughts about this segment. Feel free to share your thoughts by leaving your comments below. Also, don't forget to share this content if you find it to be beneficial, and also subscribe to this channel. Lastly, as you go back to studying your word, just remember to remind yourself that as I'm studying the word, I got to make sure I keep everything in context.